You don't like the Drake?
I hate the Drake.
I love the Drake.
How could you not like the Drake?
Who's the Drake?
Who's the Drake?
The Drake is good. You like the Drake?
I love the Drake.
What about the Drake? Screw the Drake. I love the Drake.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Robin. Everyone Loves the Drake comic podcast. This podcast will take a chronological look at the third Robin, Tim Drake. We will be looking at the classic 90s 2000 Robin series and other notable comics with Tim in that era, while also simultaneously taking a look at Tim in the modern era as Red Robin in the pages of DC Comics, plus other Robin and Batman happenings in the world. So sit back, relax, and find out why everyone loves the Drake.
Good for them. Love the Drake.
Got to love the Drake.
I'm impressed.
What can I say? I'm irresistible.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Robin. Everyone Loves the Drake comic podcast. This is brought to you by the BatmanUniverse.net, your home for all things Batman and Robin. We're part of the Batman Universe podcast network that it's officially going to roll out January of next year, and it's going to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of the Batman universe. So that's pretty cool that we've now been with the Batman universe, 3 years, probably going on 4. We're also associated with Batman on Film, and their podcast network is BatmanPodcastNetwork.com, so you can find us in a couple different places. We're also on iTunes and all those wonderful places. You can get a hold of us on Facebook at Facebook.com/EveryoneLovesTheDrake. We're on Twitter at ELTD Podcast. We're on Instagram, and you can email into the show at RobinELTDpodcast@yahoo.com, and we're also on YouTube. So just search Robin Everyone Loves the Drake across social media, and you should be able to find us. Welcome to episode 63, and with me, as always, is usually one of my two other co-hosts, and tonight we have Terence with us. How's it going tonight, sir?
Yeah, for me, it's going great. And, it was a little bit of scheduling, just craziness trying to narrow it all down. And then eventually Ryan, if we remembered, he had a really good friend coming in this weekend, and they were going to the North Carolina Comic-Con, which I unfortunately will not be going to.
I was going to ask if that was even on your radar. I kind of knew it wasn't, because it sounds like you guys are getting ready. And I'm sure as people are listening to this show, we're really close to, the holiday for Justice League is coming, but, the bigger ones are Thanksgiving and Christmas. So I'm just putting this out there. The podcast is going to kind of be in limbo a little bit. We're going to be on Wednesdays, but it may slide. We're at the last part of the month. There's just one this month. So bear with us. We're going to at least try 2 more, I think, maybe. I'd like to get a Christmas one, but it's holiday season, so family's going to kind of come first before the podcast, but hopefully maybe we get another one out of us. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, Terrence, just kind of wanted to get that out there for people listening of why the show gets a little funny towards the tail end of the year.
No, that's cool. And as some people know, one of my several jobs that I have is being a certified Disney trip planner. And part of that is making sure I go to Walt Disney World and keeping abreast on everything for that. So my family and I will be going for the Thanksgiving holiday. So if you're listening to this and when it comes out, I might be on like Splash Mountain right now or Space Mountain or something fun. But we'll be leaving for that. And I was hoping to maybe do something for the YouTube channel while I was in Disney. So you may see me reviewing a Robin comic in the Magic Kingdom or something. If time is always such a crunch when you're on vacation, but I'd love to do a little something for the YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's funny. You mentioned about being a Disney planner. I've known that you have been, but my sister is also a Disney planner. So I'm like, boy, you sure go to Disney an awful lot. And she's like, well, you got to keep up on stuff. And she keeps telling me, the Star Wars stuff is happening. I'm like, I'm going with you.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those things where if you love Walt Disney World and you go a lot, it makes sense to become a Disney planner for the discounts and the perks. And then, so it's kind of like, it's not like, I'm going to get this job and now I got to to learn all this stuff about it. It's kind of like the comic book collector who works in the comic book store, like
right.
Oh man, I forgot what I was going to say, but yeah, I got sidetracked there thinking about that. But I did put a couple things on the YouTube channel. My stepdaughter and I did a challenge, one at Toys R Us and one at Target to see if we could find any Tim Drake stuff. And so we were having a little fun teasing you, Rob, a little bit. And she was like, she's like, is Rob going to be mad at you for saying that? Is Rob going to be? I'm like, nah, Rob's a good sport. He'll have fun. But we did find Tim Drake in Target and in Toys R Us. So it's just kind of having some fun. But if anybody wanted to see my Walt Disney videos, because we do vlog that too, it's also on YouTube there under a channel called O'Neil Channel, which is kind of O'Neil Travel, and the channel, it's always going back and forth, who's got more subscribers, the Drake channel or the O'Neil channel. So I think right now O'Neil channel's got like 120 and Drake's got like 70. So I'm going back and forth on that, but we have a lot of fun with it. So and one of these days we'll get up to Ohio and visit you.
Yeah. It sounds like Cincinnati may be the place. We'll spend a nice day at the zoo there. It's a great zoo.
Yeah, that's my wife wants to go. So I think it's like a 10 or 12 hour drive for us to get to Cincinnati and like a 2-hour drive for you. Yeah. So I'm kind of meeting you more than halfway there, buddy.
Right. You better be there.
Yeah. But we did have, before we get in, I got a couple questions for you, but we did have some sad news, and I know you wanted to say a couple things, but we were really fortunate enough a few months back, and Ryan really set this up to get to interview Denny O'Neil. And part of that interview is going to be on Ryan's podcast for the Azrael, what is that called again? He calls it
it's the Agent of the Bat, I think, is okay. It's kind of going back and forth, but right now it's just Azrael Podcast. You can find him on Twitter that way.
Yeah, and we got to interview Denny O'Neil, who really, all this stuff that we're doing would not be around if it wasn't for Denny O'Neil and his guidance. And if you're reading Lonely Place of Living right now, I've read 3 of the 4 parts, and that gun-toting Batman is probably what we would have got in the 90s if it wasn't for Denny O'Neil.
Right.
Or if this was a Marvel comic. But we got to interview Denny O'Neil, and it was so awesome. And everything he said I'd kind of heard before several times.
Right.
But it was just so awesome to hear him tell us, and it was like talking to your grandfather.
Yes.
Or hearing old stories. Just you've heard the same story 18 times, but you just want to hear it one more time. And we were saddened to hear. I think I found out today, but maybe it was a while ago, that his wife had passed away.
Yeah.
And you had even recalled that he had spoke to his wife while we were on the phone with him, that he had asked her some questions and about dates, and he's always talked, just like this romantic, love story with him and his wife that was, he knew her as a teenager, I think, and then they didn't see each other for 20 years, and he went through alcoholism and rehab and came out of it, and then they found each other again and got married, and he sounded like a really devoted husband and father to her, and I think she had some children, so I think he became a stepfather to them, and so we're saddened that, this close to the holidays, that, his wife passed away. So we just wanted to send our thoughts and prayers out to the O'Neil family and Denny, and I know everyone out there in the Batman world, kind of feels the same way.
Yeah, that was one of the coolest interviews, and we need to preface this by saying the interview was quite long, and Ryan has been feverishly editing things and getting things together, because it's going to go between like 3 different podcasts. It's going to help launch his Azrael podcast, and plus with having a baby, it's kind of slowed some of that down. So I think he was talking that he may get that up, the first of 2018. That sounds weird to say, but but in the interview, I mean, like Terence said, the stories we've heard on DVD before, but that he was including, his wife in the conversation. I can't even remember what the topic was, but it led down to how he met his wife, and like just Terence said, I felt like I was sitting back listening to my grandfather talk about how I met my grandmother. It was just real sweet. I remember just kind of hearing that story. So I'm going to put up a little sound clip to kind of segue us into the show, just a little bit of that interview, and then you'll be able to hear the full thing between the Azrael podcast, our podcast, and I think the tail end of it where he was talking about some Dark Knight or the Batman film stuff is going to be over on Batman on Film. So with that, we'll take a quick little moment of silence, and we'll play a little clip from the interview. When we come back, we will start off episode 63. This is for the O'Neil family. Take care.
You're a teenager, you girls. I'm looking at the girl I dated back in those days. Right now, she's 2 feet from me.
Sweet.
And, lots of other things. And then, Mary, can you tell that about the time that cute little school teacher whose mother didn't like me was teaching in St. Louis and teaching one of my nephews. So she got in touch with me. And we hadn't seen each other for 30 years. We met for dinner, never got dinner. We talked until 3 a.m. And then she visited me in New York. And our kids met and liked each other. And so suddenly I was a husband again. And the job became wonderful.
He picked her up some flowers on a Sunday afternoon. They sat out on the porch swing underneath the crescent moon. A lifetime seemed to pass, staring at the skies. And on the swing he gave her the ring. There were tears in her eyes. I said I pray I'm not alone in my dreams about forever. That you and I could become one and always be together. We grow old and wise through all the days, for worse or for better. And I'll be true, 'cause I love you even now more than ever. And my time flies, but we'll fly farther into the night where the eyes of loneliness can never bother. All our dreams of together, uneclipsed by never, never. My time flies, it's in your eyes, and we'll fly farther. 50 years have ridden off into the sunset, and the tears that we have cried have overflown. And here we are counting scars, wounds of life's unending upset. You're with me and I'm with you, and I will never forget. My time flies, but we'll fly farther into the night where the eyes of loneliness can never bother. All our dreams of together, uneclipsed by never, never. My time flies, it's in your eyes, but we'll fly farther. He picked her up some flowers on a Sunday afternoon. He rode the Greyhound bus past the house they used to swoon. He knelt beside the grave, hung his head, a teardrop fell, and on the stone epitaph showed the words he knew so well. And my time flies, but we'll fly farther into the night where the eyes of loneliness can never bother. All our dreams of together, uneclipsed by never, never. My time flies, it's in your eyes, but we'll fly farther. We'll fly farther into the night where the eyes of loneliness can never bother. All our dreams of together, uneclipsed by never, never. My time flies, it's in your eyes, we'll fly farther. We'll fly farther. We'll fly farther.
All right, we're back. Terence, I think you said you had a couple questions before we get into our books today.
Yeah, it's hard to segue from like such unfortunate news to like, hey, let's talk about comic books and stuff. But, in some way that's why comic books are great, because they are an escape from, the real world, and you can kind of lose yourself in it. But I had a question for you, because I get my books monthly, so I'm kind of behind and stuff. But I've read a lot of it, and I have just been absolutely loving Dark Knight's Metal. And I was wondering, how have you felt about Dark Knight's Metal?
I've really liked Dark Knight's Metal. I think it's been a really good story, and I got you've probably seen how the T-shirt. It looks like the concert T-shirt you would have got back in the 80s, and it has what looks like tour dates, but it's all of the books that are going to be in there. And I told myself I'm not going to get the offshoots and all that stuff. But I found myself reading more of it, like, I want to know more about this. So I've been picking up all of the Devastator. I think did The Man Who Laughs, I think that recently came out, or maybe that's next week, but like, the Red Death and all those different things, just the zany and crazy. And, it really feels like this could be a Batman Metal music video or something like that. And some of the Snyder Capullo stuff starts out really strong and starts to kind of taper as the story goes. I feel like every issue is just hitting you over the head like, holy crap, I didn't think this was going to happen. And all these characters are starting to come back, and seeing things like hints at Plastic Man and Mr. Terrific, and, where the story is going to go has just it's been really holding my attention.
Yeah, I really love the side books about each evil version of Batman. The metallic covers are gorgeous. I love these covers. And at $3.99, they lowered the price. They were originally $4.99, and then they lowered them to $3.99 because the first issue Metal sold so well. That's a really cool thing DC did. And there's not 8,000 covers for each one. It's one cover, one book. And so I really dug. That's the way to do a cover. Like, that's the way to do a quote unquote gimmicky cover, is not to, make it $8.99 or that's, Spider-Man with $9.99 or something, and, the offshoots have really like top-notch talent doing it. They got Tony S. Daniel and, Tan, and I'm looking at a couple of them here. And I read the 4-part offshoot. It was called the Gotham Resistance, which was like Teen Titans, Nightwing, Green Arrow, and Suicide Squad, which I read all 4 of those books Anyway, but that was really cool. And did you think Nightwing's cold weather suit was kind of reminiscent of Batman and Robin?
Yeah.
George Clooney-ish? Yeah.
Yeah,
you think that was deliberate, or you think that was...
That had to be. I mean, I was wanting to geek out and show my wife it, and I knew it was just going to fly right over her head. So I'm like, I want to ask you when we talk, and I'm glad you brought it up because I completely forgot it, but I chuckled. I'm like, man, somebody has to have watched Batman and Robin and going, okay, I think I'm going to put this in there.
Yeah, I thought it looked pretty cool though.
Yeah.
I thought it like actually looked a lot better than the movie.
Right.
But yeah, I thought that was kind of a cool homage to not one of the greatest moments in Batman history.
Right.
So, but yeah, I've been loving Metal.
Now I have it in my hand. I don't know if you have it yet with you getting your books monthly, but I have the Dark Knight's Batman Lost tie-in issue.
No, I don't have that. Don't have that one yet.
So I didn't know if you by the time you got your books, if it had shipped yet or not. So I'll be interested to see what you have to say, but I haven't read it either. But the cover on this, again, is like the metal foil, but it's red and has this really eerie glow. And I've been hearing some good things about this issue. So yeah, I'm curious to see how metal's going to go. And like you mentioned earlier, we have a Lonely Place of Living, which we've had a couple questions. We will get to it, but it is going to be next year when that sounds like, next year, a whole year away. It's literally going to be like a month and a half, and that'll probably be one of the first things we do in the new year, so we can get through Christmas and the holidays and not rush it and kind of make it an event for us.
Yeah, I read parts 2 and 3 today, actually, at the Toyota dealership while my wife was getting her car. Well, I was getting my wife's car oil change, and I liked it, but just to jump, I saw you posted some stuff too. It seems too short. Like, I need this to be like this should be a 12-parter. Like, there was one scene where the future evil Batman Tim Drake is confronting in Wayne Manor Damian, Nightwing, and who else was there? Red Hood.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've been training for 15 years to take you three down, and I'm like, yes, I wanted to see how he took down each one of them and what he did. And then it's just like a one panel, like the next thing you see, all three of them fall into the Batcave or something. And I was like, oh man, I wanted a whole issue. Like, that should have been the end of an issue, and then the whole next issue should have just been a fight scene and how he takes them down and stuff. But I realize there's time and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it is. I think there's going to be more to this. I think there's going to be how should I say this? The fallout of this story will be a major part of the run of Detective Comics for the next year to year and a half.
Probably.
I think so. I think it'll be cool. I haven't read part 4 yet. Have you read part 4?
Yeah, I'm all caught up and finished.
And then, oddly enough, this is just totally random. I read today, just out of just total randomness, I just grabbed these books I grabbed up some books from my to read stack as I was going out to the car dealership, and I read Superman 27 and 28, which I had been disappointed in the Superman 26 because it was a guest writer. Yeah. And man, without Tomasi and Gleason, Tomasi and Gleason know how to write the Kent family so well. And you could just tell in that issue, the tone and everything was just off. It was so jarring. But I don't know. Did you read 27 and 28 where they get in a Winnebago and travel around to historic sites? Yeah, that was really cool. I love how Tomasi if you haven't read these two issues, you got to read them. It's just great how Tomasi just pushes the boundary of what's in a comic or what's in a superhero comic and wrote them so well. And it is a bit wordy. I don't know if this is what I would want out of every single comic I read every time, but as a change, I thought it was really good. And oddly enough, today is Veterans Day, and a lot of it has to do with the wars and the sacrifices and veterans and Gettysburg and the Korean War and the Vietnam War and World War I and World War II. And it was just a really different Superman story, and I really liked it. And I was wondering what you felt about Superman 27 and 28.
No, I thought they were perfect. Like you said, if every issue was wordy like that, I might kind of go, that's a little thick there, guys. But I think for that, Winnebago adventure, if you want to call it that, I thought it was perfect because it was a father talking to his son and just about those type of moments, which I thought was excellent. Tomasi and Gleason, I think, are just really knocking it out of the park with the Superman book. And traditionally, I haven't been a Superman comic book buyer. I would buy the event books, but it's another one of those Rebirth books that right from issue 1 they've had me the whole way through. So I can forgive the guest writer coming in, because I know when Tomasi and Gleason come back, we're going to get a nice big, story from them. So I thought both of those issues were great.
And Tomasi and Gleason are a hard act to follow for the guest writer. Because then I read the next issue. It's where Superman becomes a Yellow Lantern. And even that one, you could just tell it was just a step below in the writing. Right. But I know some people right now are listening going, come on, stop talking about stuff that came out this month. We want to know about stuff from 23 years ago. Come on, man. What is this? But I had one more I wanted to ask you about. And that is what was your take on, now that it's concluded, the War of Jokes and Riddles? Oh, did I touch a nerve?
It was not presented to. I about said it's not presented to me in the way it was told. Like Snyder said, Rob, this is how we're going to do this story. I took it as, not Snyder, King rather, that he was going to do this basically New 52 0-year timeline story to kind of get out of the way of Metal and other Batman events. But after it all folds out, this is just a story he's telling Catwoman. There's parts of it that I really liked, like Kite Man. I never thought I would say, I really like Kite Man. I want more Kite Man in my stories. I thought it was really good. Riddler, I thought, was really solid in it. The Joker, I thought, just kind of really felt flat, and I thought it was kind of 2 issues too long. I thought there was I wanted a little bit bigger payout, and the whole thing that the Joker's lost his laugh, and we don't get it at the end, and this is the rebirth introduction, essentially, of the Joker, and I don't know. I think King does some really good work. I feel like his stories are up and down. The first story arc is really good. The next one's kind of weak, and the next one's kind of up. This was kind of a downer for me a little bit. It was still good, but I was kind of getting bored with it by the last couple issues, where I was like, okay, let's wrap this up. And then it was basically buttoned by the proposal of, will you marry me? Then the Zero stuff, and then him telling the story to Catwoman, and then her basically saying yes. And I was like, I don't know. It seemed a little disjointed in a couple spots. I enjoyed it, but I think it could have been shorter. So hopefully I didn't crap all over on the book where you're like, oh man, this was amazing. It didn't strike the chord for me. So.
Well, see, I really liked it. But as I read it, I knew, like, this is not for everyone. Like, I'm digging this and I really like it, but I know that this is different, and some people are going to have a negative reaction to it. But I think that's good. I think, you can't make something for everybody, and I like that they take chances and do something different. And I liked how the Riddler was portrayed as really competent and not just a joke or just like a buffoon, or like, what is this guy with the, Jim Carrey kind of ish, So I dug that take on the Riddler. And long ago, I must have been a teenager or something. I saw this thing, Helena Wayne, and I'm like, who the heck is Helena Wayne? I had no idea. And I think I read it on either the early internet or some kind of DC encyclopedia of like Earth. Was it Earth 2 or something where it was, Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle were married, and that was their daughter. And that just blew my mind. And I was always like, oh my gosh. So I would love to see that. Like, to me, I would love to see Batman get married to Selena and then her get pregnant and have a Helena and start going down that story, which I don't think they're going to do. And I just get the feeling it's just going to all be for naught. Even like, especially after the Superman Wonder Woman romance from a couple of years ago, and now that's just completely like forgotten and just like, hey, everybody look over here, pretend that didn't happen.
Right.
So I don't see it going anywhere, but I do kind of like it. One other book, I said that was going to be the last one, but one other one. Did you get Nightwing: The New Order?
No, I didn't, and I really like Kyle Higgins' writing, but and it's not because I don't like Elseworlds, but I was just like, I'm already reading so much, and my stack is already so thick. I just didn't want to add another book to the pile. So I've told myself when it gets collected in a trade, I will go out and pick it up, because I did like Higgins' New 52 Nightwing run. But I didn't. So it's kind of one of those, as I stumble across stuff, if I hear, spoilery stuff, I'm like, cool, I'm planning on reading it anyway. So you can talk about it if you want. I did see that, it looks like Tim Drake might be in the story somewhere on the cover. So I was like, maybe I ought to pick it up. But what are you thinking of it?
That's why I mention it. Issues 1 and 2, and I thought it was a 12-issue series, but it says here 6 issues, so that's not so bad. Issues 1 and 2 were fantastic, and they were not what I was expecting. I thought the story was going in kind of a little different way, and what it was, I thought, I don't want to spoil stuff here, but it wasn't what I thought from the covers, per se. And then here, I got issue 3, which I haven't read yet, but it's got Tim Drake, I'm assuming Tim Drake, Red Robin, but it's the original
like Kingdom Come.
Kingdom Come,
okay.
First pre-New 52, and it looks really good. And then I just flipped through it to see, and I don't see him in that suit anywhere on any of the pages. So it's set in the future, I think, what is the year? I think says 2040 on the first page.
Okay.
So he could be in it. He could be one of these guys I'm seeing, just not in superhero costume, because there's a bunch of people. Or they could just talk about him. I'm seeing here, and it looks like there's a Green Lantern. It looks like John Stewart at some point in here. And it also looks like at the end there's a Flash on the last page. But I don't know which Flash, because he's got a totally different suit. So I don't know where Tim will fit in, if he does at all. Maybe they mentioned him in the first and second issue, and I just missed it. A bunch of people died in the first issue, but yeah, the cover to 3 looks really great. So yeah.
Well, tell you what, folks, let's
get in the DeLorean and go back to 1994. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, quit talking about the future. We want to go back to the past, Rob. So
yeah.
We're going to go backwards, and we're going to pick up. We're kind of going to go through 4 books, 2 officially, and we'll explain once we get there. So bear with us. We're going to be looking at Robin 12, Batman 414, Shadow of the Bat 34, and Detective Comics 681 for the next 4 installments of Prodigal.
Andy, I have an amazing idea. Let's do a podcast.
We've been talking about doing this for years. That sounds great. So, what should we talk about?
Something no one else is talking about. Batman.
Mike, there are hundreds of Batman shows out there. You used to do one.
True. Well, maybe we could do an index show.
Are you insane? We both already host those.
True again. Okay, maybe we could talk about Batman stories no one else does. Like the Jerry Conway run.
Oh, yeah, we could discuss his entire run and then go into the Doug Mensch run.
But we won't be tied down to that. We need to be free to talk about other Batman stories from that era as well.
And we could call it The Overlooked Dark Knight, the non-index show.
Great!
I guess we should do a trailer.
I think we kind of just did.
Yeah, but it's missing something. Like, you should have added music behind us or something.
Andy, I have an amazing idea. Let's do a podcast.
We've been talking about doing this for years. That sounds great! So, what should we talk about?
Something no one else is talking about. Batman.
Mike, there are hundreds of Batman shows out there. You used to do one.
True. Well, maybe we could do an index show.
Are you insane? We both already host those.
True again. Okay, maybe we could talk about Batman stories no one else does. Like the Jerry Conway run.
Oh, yeah, we could discuss his entire run and then go into the Doug Mensch run.
But we won't be tied down to that. We need to be free to talk about other Batman stories from that era as well.
And we could call it The Overlooked Dark Knight, the non-index show.
Great!
The Overlooked Dark Knight, the non-index show. New episodes drop on the 14th and 28th of every month. The show and the website, www.overlookeddarknight.com, launch in May of 2017 from the Fortress of Baileytude Podcasting Network.
We're back as Terrence and I are ripping on each other. Robin number 12, Prodigal Part 8. I thought this was a really cool issue before we get into it. I love the cover here. It's always kind of weird when they like superimpose, like we got this big, huge hulking Robin. It's probably supposed to signify, you know, kind of like we always talk about the Peter Parker Spider-Man thing where Tim's having to hold, you know, his superhero identity, and he even says it in the book that he's got to take a couple punches because he's with Mary Jane. I mean, Ariana. So a really cool cover, and Grummet's time on the book is slowly fading fast. This might be one of his final covers other than Robin 13. I think he does get to do that as well. What do you think of the cover here? For Robin 12.
Yeah, it's bittersweet because it is, you know, one of the final Grummett images we get. And I loved Grummet's art. He was the perfect artist because it was not too realistic, but not too cartoony. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Phil, I don't know if it's pronounced Jimenez or Jimenez. Yeah, he's a great artist, but it was kind of jarring to go from his much more realistic, much more detailed. And as a Batman fan, I always had a chip on my shoulder because they said it in the letter column that he left to focus on Superboy. And I was like, why? Oh, man, why does Superboy get priority over Robin? But at the time, Superman was selling better than Batman with the whole death of Superman and everything. And shortly after, I meant to look it up, but I missed it. Superman launched a 5th title. Like Superman came back to his like classic Superman, and they launched a 5th title that I think came out every 3 months, so that way the book was weekly for those 5-week months. And that was also penciled by Grummet. And they had a really cool gimmicky cover where it was Superman and it was like foil and it was fireworks behind him. And when you move the cover, it kind of changed rainbow color behind it. And I remember that cover being on the news. Like I remember watching ABC News in the morning, and they were talking about that, and I was like, wow, this is, you know, that's big time. So I can understand why Grummet would leave if the thing he left for got him on ABC News, but still it hurt my feelings as a Robin fan. Yeah.
Right. We talked about this on the previous episode about Phil Jimenez's art, like really good, but I think we have just got so accustomed to Grummet and even Tom Lyle that the two artists kind of complemented each other. So this was kind of like the early stages of like just kind of getting yourself used to like artist changes, and it was nice that Dixon's writing, you know, obviously still stays through the next 100 issues here. And
you know, one of the things I wanted to ask Chuck Dixon when we ever get to interview him again was if he changed his writing style for the different style of artists. And I've been thinking about that for a while. And then when we turn the page, like the first image is like a bloodied face with a gun pointed at you and explosions and everything. And I thought, I guess Dixon did change it. But then as you see, it not to jump all over your narration, Rob, but it turns out to not really be what's going on. And it turns out to be a much more lighthearted story in some ways. So, but I would love to ask Chuck if he changed any of his writing or his story ideas based upon the change in artists.
If you see me on the YouTube channel or anything like that, I always have my hat backwards. It's because Tim Drake wore his hat backwards. No, I can't take that. I just looked at it and go, oh, Tim wears his hat backwards. He took that from me.
Yeah. I thought it was Ken Griffey Jr., but, you know.
Right. You know, the typical, and I like, we've said it a million times on the show, that Chuck Dixon has a really good way of writing teenage dialogue without making it sound cliche, and it doesn't sound like, well, here's a 50-year-old guy trying to sound like he's 16. He has the lingo. He's not using the lingo. He's just making the conversation sound like they would for teens and having them. I've been in movie theaters And my cousin's bad at this, of talking during the movie. I'm like, dude, you're that person that I hate, and he'd be the one that would, throw pop in somebody's face and want to bait him into a fight. And I'm like, oh, please don't do that. So I've kind of witnessed this, but I've been on the other end of it, and I've been the person that's like, sorry, my cousin's a jerk. Have you been in theaters like that, where there's just that person?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, anyone who's listening to this podcast knows that I ramble on. So yeah, I'm usually that person who doesn't shut up, and my wife thinks he's like, shh, quiet, or friends. But I'm the one where the person turns around and says, quiet down. I'm like, yes, I'm sorry, sir. I won't do it again. So I've never thrown, as you not Ohioans. What did you call somebody from Ohio?
Ohioan, yeah.
Ohioan. Oh, as you Ohioans would call it pop. Us New Yorkers would call it soda. Now I learned this week. Is Orange Crush your favorite soft drink?
Yeah, it's my go-to. That and the cherry Pepsi.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, usually when we're going through a drive-through convenience store, I'll ask for an Orange Crush. I think I even took a picture recently. We're talking to Tim Gerasi about doing some stuff, and in the foreground is my orange Crush. So, do you want to get Rob Orange Crush for Christmas? He'll take it, or grape, or strawberry. But I'm sure that's what Tim got thrown in the face here, and this just kind of goes through of where we're going to watch the movie and come out, and then Tim's got to quote unquote fight off his attackers here, and he's got to take the punch so he doesn't blow his identity, because we know as readers, man, he could just lay these guys right out and could come out looking like the hero for his girlfriend, yeah, I kicked these guys' butts. But I don't think he also wants to come off as a jerk here. And it looks like on page, it's not really numbered here, but it looks like he gets curb stomped at some point here.
It's a pretty brutal beating, because he even says, I can take a punch, I can roll with it. But yet he still gets kind of beat. Well, I'll let you finish what you want to say here, and then I have some thoughts on this.
No, that's about all I had for those couple of pages where he ends up taking the punch and the cop ends up breaking up the fight. And my only last little bit was, at what point was Tim going to okay, I literally can't have them kill me here. He's going to have to fight, but the cop ends up saving his life. So that was the end of my little spot. So I'll kick it back over to you. Excuse me.
All right. Yeah, I don't like this. I don't like it at all. Now, I guess the idea of Chuck Dixon is that you're not supposed to like it and you're supposed to be angry by it. So I get it. Mm-hmm. But one of my favorite things is, and we've talked about how much the Tim Drake Robin run parallels, 60s Peter Parker, Spider-Man. But one of my favorite things ever was in the original Tobey Maguire first Spider-Man, mm-hmm. when he goes to school and he's got his now Spidey powers and he just beats the bullies and just puts, the bullies in their place. And I was like, this movie is amazing. This is great. This is why we love superheroes, because everybody dreams of just being able to do that. Even the bullies dream of being able to do that, because they're probably getting bullied by older kids or whatever. Everybody wishes they could just be invulnerable and not have to take that crap from anybody. And so this is why even be Robin if you're just going to get your butt kicked in a movie theater? But I'm like, okay, I get he's taking a punch or two to protect his identity, but these thugs really manhandle Ariana around. Is it Ariana? You're right. They throw her to the ground. They for a while I thought it was going to go in a much darker, horrible place with her being assaulted, and he's just well, no, my Robin identity. At some point the Robin identity, a couple things. First of all, save your girlfriend here. I mean, her leg, on whatever page it is, the third or fourth page after the Raw is War ad, her legs are up in the air. She's being thrown to the curb and stuff. You got to get up and just risk your identity to save her, whether she's your girlfriend or just some woman. And then I don't know, if you're in a fight, if you were in a movie theater and a couple of jerks were being mean and you beat them up, would you just immediately be oh, well, he must be a superhero. Oh, he's obviously he won a fight, so he's obviously Robin. Winning one fight behind a movie theater doesn't necessarily out you as a superhero. But anyway, I thought he could have done kind of like a Christopher Reeve Superman, where he kind of like pretends to trip and fall, but actually, beats the bad guys up or something, or like pretends to fall and headbutts him or something like that would have been more satisfactory to me. But I get what Dixon's doing and I get the setup, but I come away from it not being very happy by the whole thing. Yeah, and I agree. I that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, you could have leg swept him or something and got away and had a throwaway line of like, boy, that was lucky, in the back of your mind. You're like, that's right, Robin. You got him. Tim goes into the bat cave. Dick's looking at his wounds. Like, he's got a nice shiner here. And I love Phil Jimenez's art in the bat cave and seeing the Robin costume still on display there, that they've, put the pieces back together. Bruce is going to have it real handy. Dick's going to have cleaned this whole entire Batcave and Wayne Manor from top to bottom without Alfred. If you read Prodigal, they really go out of their way to make you realize that Dick Grayson has great domestic skills. Like I can't tell you how many pages and how many books are devoted to the fact that he could do laundry and clean up and obviously repair the Jason Todd Memorial in the Batcave. I mean, Terrence and we love this story, but that's one of those things I'm like, boy, they sure want to make sure, like, hey, ladies, Dick can fold a towel. Yeah. Did this come out? This came out before Batman Forever with the whole Kung Fu laundry scene, right? Yes. Yep. Yeah, so they carried it on even to the cinematic universe. Batman Forever was 95. This is 94. So somebody was probably reading this book and said, hey, Dick does laundry. Let's put that in our movie. It had to be. That cannot be a coincidence. No. Joel Schumacher had to just like open up a page of Prodigal and see that and be like, this is important. They keep, in the last 4 issues I've read, it's about his laundry skills. We gotta include that. I didn't read the story, but this is an important story beat, so we're gonna put it in there. For the record, not that anybody's keeping a record of my feelings on Batman Forever, but if there was a record of it, when I sat in the movie theater in 1995, when I was 22 or 21, and saw that Kung Fu laundry scene, I thought it was one of the coolest darn things I'd ever seen. And even now today, when I watch that movie, I still like that scene. So I know there's a lot of people who roll their eyes at it and stuff, but I love Batman Forever. I forgive it for whatever shortcomings it has, and I think the Kung Fu laundry scene is actually pretty cool. And I may have tried out a few of those moves in my mom's house by the laundry machine. I may not have, but I may have. Yes. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm not even an apologist. I have a Batman Forever Robin poster on my wall right now that I'm looking at. It's still the original poster from that movie. There's no Batman and Robin poster, but that was one of those things I thought, oh man, that's so cool. Dick Grayson has all the self-control. He can pull laundry across the thing. But when people talk about it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's dumb. And secretly, I'm like, I still think it's kind of cool. Well, I saw Batman and Batman Forever opening night in some movie theater in Long Island, New York, and everyone in that crowd left happy with that movie and raving about what a great movie it was. And I know there's been a lot of revisionists, but I think just kind of the same way Adam West's Batman, had peaks and troughs. I think that movie, it suffers a little bit because of Batman and Robin, and or a lot of it, I guess, from that. And I do think it will find its appreciation, I think, a little bit further down the line. But I enjoy the heck out of that movie even to this day. And I'm just throwing this out there. Terrence and I have another podcast. Who knows? Maybe there'll be a commentary track of that movie that Terrence and I will do somewhere down the line. I'm just saying. That'll be fun. Yeah, that'll be fun. So now that we've talked for an hour on these first couple pages, Tim's, I would say, retaliation, the way he's going to cope with it is let's go out and let's beat some bad guys up. And Dick's kind of like, okay, I can understand that. But Tim's finding out it's kind of like a hollow victory. Yeah, he got to beat up some low-level thugs and really whoop some butt, but it still didn't quelch that thing that he actually needs. He didn't surpass is the wrong word. He didn't put out the fire from, kind of getting his butt handed to him. But the art from Phil Jimenez on this 2 splash pages is absolutely beautiful. Tim Drake's right front and center on the 2 of them, especially with the one. I wish the pages were numbered here. Sorry, folks. But where he's kicking the guy like straight towards the camera and his cape's all flared out with Batman in the background.
And I like that Dick's kind of in the background, like, okay, you do your thing, and it's almost like, Bruce let me do this once, and there's a lesson here, and you're going to realize it's not going to make you happy going out and kicking these guys. So what do you think about this little sequence here?
Yeah, this will make you forget about Tom Grummett, or at least, feel you're good. Even the page before that, the Batmobile roaring through the streets with the smoke. It's the best, I think, Phil Jimenez's art has looked so far in the Robin series. He's definitely getting better and better as it goes on. And then on the next page, like when Tim Drake is waking up in his room, I swear that room looks just like my room from 1994 or 5, whenever this book came out. Bed's not really made. There's comic books all over the floor. There's a giant monitor computer system set up on a desk, So, and it's not a very big room for a guy who lives in a mansion. But the one thing I'll say about Jimenez's art that I do kind of miss is Grummett was very consistent. Now, he might have been a little too consistent with his faces because everyone looked the same. Yeah. But Jimenez, his faces vary wildly. So, like, that Tim Drake waking up out of bed, it looks like the elongated man with like his chin and nose. Like it's not as consistent as I might like, but it gets the job done. And then I wanted to ask you about this because I couldn't remember. So when this like super hot supermodel / personal trainer comes in, does Tim Drake's dad end up marrying her?
I think that this is where we miss Ryan. I think that this is that his dad ends up marrying, that ends up becoming his stepmom. I'm almost positive by the way this is out that his dad is head over heels about working out, or is he more focused on his new trainer? Like I'm almost positive. So maybe you'll hear an edit somewhere into the show, but I'm almost 100% sure. Now watch, I'm going to eat crow. Like, no, Rob, that's not it at all.
I'm going to look it up. I couldn't remember. And now it's I'll look it up. If you want to go over the next – oh, here comes the laundry scene. Yeah, if you want to give a detail. I mean, for two guys, they have maybe what's-his-face down in the Batcave. Harold, they throw Harold a bone and do his laundry too. But there's like 3 baskets and 5 towels, and I mean these two guys make a lot of laundry. And Tim should be doing laundry at his own house, so it's really just Dick and Harold's laundry. So yeah, there's a lot there. Yeah,
either that or Jean-Paul just used one towel every single day and left them all over the floor. So And the whole Ibotta little skit that we did of all the bathrooms, Jean-Paul probably used every single towel in every. So Dick's like, my gosh, I'm in the 34th bathroom in Wayne Manor, and there's more towels to still do. So maybe that's why he's doing laundry so much.
Hey, here, edit note, edit whatever music you make for the edit note, according to DC Fandom, DCWeeka.com, Dana Winters was a physical therapist who was employed to help Jack Drake recover from crippling injuries sustained at the hands of the Obeda man. I can never say that. OBDEH. Obea man. Dana Winters fell in love with her employer and eventually married him. So you were right, Rob.
I was right.
Yep.
I did.
She had as a fairly... Oh, go ahead.
No, I didn't want to fully jump off the ledge like Tim with the glider, so I said, I'll wait.
Yeah. Says she had a fairly close relationship with Jack's son, Tim Drake, but is unaware of his activities as Robin. When the gang war broke out in Gotham, Jack and Dana were summoned by Tim to the East End Clinic, where they provided help and relief to some of the many injured people. Following Jack's death, Dana went into psychological shock and was treated at a clinic in Bloodhaven, which I guess now with the fact that Tim Drake's parents were both still alive for a while in the New 52, she's probably been retconned out, but I still remember that. I think I remember thinking, man, I wish my dad had a physical therapist come over who would look like that. Yeah.
Boy, my stepmom is hot.
Yeah.
I'm glad I could kind of remember that. So, Ryan, we muddled along without you, but
yeah.
So we get a little bit of. I'm assuming that this is a little bit more of Troika kind of working its way in, where the Duzhinskos are kind of getting, like, their poor storefronts constantly getting shot up, and KG Beast was at the hands of it the last time, even though he appears in the story a little bit later. So Ariana ends up running after her uncle, kind of gets beaten, and Tim does get his comeuppance again against these guys. Him kind of walking through Gotham City after, he doesn't know this is going on with Ariana yet. So I thought that was kind of cool. At least the thing that we were complaining about earlier, that Tim does see these guys again and kind of gets to kick a little butt, but his victory is short-lived as Ari kind of comes back over and we find out, where Tim finds out what's happened, and then the KG Beast reference comes right back in towards the tail end. So I thought that was kind of cool. We haven't seen the KG Beast since Robin 3 Cry of the Huntress. So what'd you think of issue 12 with that last little bit of the Drzinskos, and then kind of seeing the mob and Troika kind of get mentioned again?
Yeah, I agree with you. It was done really well, sets things up, very realistic. Like, this is something that happens, to especially immigrant business owners in rough parts of town. And this is something you see on the news, so it's not far-fetched. I like the little Troika setup where, I like when they have storylines, but they set them up in other storylines. And that last full page of the KG Beast, he looks really good. Like, he looks really muscular, but it's not ridiculously comical like a Bane or like a Kelly Jones cover with 18,000 abs. It's like, right. He looks like a really strong guy who probably does some roids or something. And I think it was good bringing the KG Beast as I always want to call him like KG Beast, but like fast, like KG Beast, the KG Beast as kind of one of Robin's villains, and seeing him in Robin since he was in 3, and I think at that point he had not really been in a lot of Batman stuff. No. I actually think he looks better here than he did in All-Star Batman a couple months ago.
I definitely agree.
Yeah. So yeah, overall, it's a pretty solid issue. And it's at that point, like, you look and it's like Robin 12. It's like, man, this series that people said would never happen has already got a year under its belt.
Yeah, definitely. Now, we did mention we were going to go through 4 books, and we're going to this is kind of what we're going to do through the podcast. If Tim's not really in it, we're kind of go through the story. I mean, generally, we're going to be talking about the Robin series, but when it kind of crosses paths with other books, we'll kind of breeze through them a little bit. The next 2 issues, I'll take this one, and I'll give part 10 over to Terence just to briefly talk about it. This is basically a night out while Tim was doing his thing, getting beat up by the moviegoers. Dick is out talking with Tim just briefly, but some other people that had got out of the jail because of Two-Face's involvement from our previous episode, Dick's having to go back out and kind of track all these guys down, and Tim kind of gets the pass of, hey, you've got homework, you've got your dad, you got your dad's trainer, and she's pretty hot. You got to go oogle her for a while.
Yeah. So, doesn't Dick even make a comment of like, oh, I'm going to have to come over there and hang out or something? Yeah.
I thought that was kind of funny. So, not to take anything away from the story, but just for the podcast, it's really not Tim Drake heavy other than those first couple pages. It's Batman going out doing what Batman does and taking care of these 3 crooks that had gotten out of Blackgate or various prisons because of Two-Face, and rounding them all back up, and that's pretty much the story. So it's still Doug Mensch does a really good job writing the story with Wagner and Rubenstein doing the arts in it. It's a beautiful book, but just for the podcast, we kind of want to move things a little bit farther. I thought it was another good book. Did you have any comments on that particular issue with Batman 514 at all?
Yeah, I like the cover a lot. I think it's a cool cover, but it's a cover that could fit it's very generic. It could fit any Batman story anywhere. And, I thought it was a kind of a mediocre story. It was all right. It wasn't bad. Mm-hmm. And I thought the internal monologue of Dick Grayson kind of doubting himself as Batman and doubting the whole is getting a little old at this point in the storyline. We're now at part 9. it's kind of like, okay, we've heard this, but that leads into part 10, which takes place in Batman Shadow of the Bat number 34, which has got a beautiful Brian Stetfreeze cover.
Oh, yeah.
And in fact, the artist I'm not too familiar with, his name is M.D. Bright, and inker Scott Hanna, written by Alan Grant. And I feel like the art is really good. I really like this art.
Yeah.
But there is no Tim Drake in this issue at all. It's a issue. It starts out where Batman has already been captured, so you kind of don't really know what happened. And he's been captured by the Tally Man, who was part of Night Quest. The Search, I want to say. I did the YouTube videos for him, but was it the Quest?
The Crusade.
Was it the Crusade?
Yeah.
Okay. And I remember doing the YouTube videos for that. And so Tallyman still thinks that it's the Jean Paul Valley Batman. As the story goes on, you get a little flashback of how Batman got captured and stuff, and then they give you a little flashback of the Crusade stuff with the Tallyman. And if you remember from that issue, Jean-Paul kind of goes crazy and carves a bat symbol in the chest of Tallyman. So there's a lot of flashback of that, and then there's some flashback of Dick remembering, the circus and being Robin and the Teen Titans and then the Titans, and it's kind of like almost like a Zero issue or a Who's Who issue going in that. And then it's just kind of, Batman escapes, and then they fight for a bunch of pages, and then they fight for some more pages, and then Batman wins and ties up the Tallyman, and that's about it. And so, it's not bad, and then if you're a Dick Grayson fan, it's kind of cool to get the recap of all this stuff, but it kind of it feels a little odd as issue 10 in the Prodigal. It's just kind of a weird place to put all these flashbacks and everything.
Yeah.
So and it kind of, my favorite thing about Prodigal is the Dick Grayson, Tim Drake interaction, and Tim actually being with someone who knows what it's like to be a Robin and who actually smiles and has a little fun, like we'll see in part 11 as we get to like when they want to take the rocket car or the subway rocket, and they both like smile at each other and like, yeah, like that's the kind of stuff I like about Prodigal. And part 10 just didn't have any of that in it. So what did you think of part 10?
I thought it was an interesting story. I think it kind of did a nice callback to the Azrael days. And, this is another villain that Dick has never run up against. And the villain has familiarity with Batman. And, Dick sees firsthand of how crazy Jean-Paul was with getting things, carved into the Tallyman. And to me, this seems out of place. Like the Two-Face part of Prodigal was so good that this kind of feels like this story should have been shifted, like along with the Rat Catcher. That this should have been one of the earlier fights that he got into leading up to the Two-Face fight. It was still really good. I'm glad it's a part of Prodigal, but it just seems misplaced. Like you were saying, this is issue 10. The story should be really ramping up at this point for the final couple issues, and this just kind of plateaus a little bit. It seems it's still a good story, but it just seems out of place for me.
Yeah, as great as Prodigal is, and as much as I love it, it could have actually been two stories. What the Two-Face could have been called Prodigal, and then they could have had a second Dick Grayson Batman story or something, or these could have just been standalone issues. It doesn't feel like one big story the way like a Nightfall does or something like that.
Yeah.
But part 11 I really enjoyed, so I think we should have some good things to say about part 11 if people think we're just ragging on Prodigal, because I do love it.
Oh, same here. And this is, I don't know if I would call this an iconic shot on Detective Comics 681, but it's a great Batman and Robin shot that kind of pays homages to different versions of Batman and Robin, with having, obviously Batman and Robin on the front of the cover, and whoever this creature is that they're trying to track down, written by Chuck Dixon, art by Graham Nolan. So I think this is a really solid cover. It's not like, oh, this is the greatest cover ever, but it's a solid cover. What do you think of Detective Comics 681 cover?
Yeah, I always forget which issue it is, but it is like kind of an homage to that one where it's Batman and Robin and it's like the spotlight on them and they're in this pose here. And I do like, it's kind of funny if you look in the background underneath Batman, you say like Nolan did cover and then on the newspaper. Do you see that? That kind of cracks me up. And in fact, the art, Chuck Dixon, Graham Nolan pencils, Klaus Janson, guest inker, and he's always a very thick inker. It really reminded me a lot of the Bane Conquest series that's going on now.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that Bane Conquest series just for the nostalgia feel of it and the aspect of it. The art overall, including the cover, was fantastic. And then let me ask you this: the inside of the cover has a ad for Mortal Kombat 2, for the Super NES, Genesis, Game Boy, and Game Gear. Were you a big Mortal Kombat guy?
Oh yeah.
I thought so. Yeah.
I'm the jerk that would go up to somebody at the arcade and challenge them. I would lose the first round on purpose.
Oh gosh.
Barely win the second round, like whew. And then I would just annihilate you on the third. And then after I win, I'll count the machine out and walk away from it.
Yeah.
I was kind of a jerk like that.
Yeah, my brother got Mortal Kombat, I want to say for the Sega Genesis. It may have been something else, and then it didn't have like the blood in it. Yeah. And we had to, I think, call a number to get a special code to unlock the ripping out the spine and everything and finish him. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was I haven't played it in forever, and I bet it seems like really tame and mild compared to what we've got now. But but in its day, that was like shocking.
Yeah, so, yeah, definitely. I love that.
And actually, it even has a little box on the very bottom. Sorry to cut you off, but it says may not be appropriate for players under 17 years of age.
I know. 94. I was 18 by 94. But Mortal Kombat had been around long enough at this point through different variations of it that I know I wasn't 17 when I first started playing Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, and if you would have told me back then that one day would have a Mortal Kombat versus DC Heroes, I would have not believed you. Yeah,
right. This issue kind of starts off like the Tallyman issue did, where it's like, what am I missing here in the beginning? As I was reading this like right before we got ready to record, I was like, man, I don't think this ties into the Tallyman stuff. This just feels like another adventure that Dick and Tim happen to be on, of this other being or creature, or we kind of think it might be Azrael, that's kind of taken some people out with, Tough Tony Brassey gets mentioned again, and Crazy Maury is kind of talking here, that they can't figure out who's knocking people off, who has these razor claws. So that's kind of the opening sequence of these guys at the beginning here trying to fight somebody, and then the guy on the roof is talking to Batman and Robin. He's trying to say, this guy just kind of came in, we don't know what it is, and more Dick than Tim is really thinking it could be Jean-Paul, and Tim's kind of wanting to say this doesn't really feel like his MO. And it took me a little bit to remember that, spoilers, it's not Azrael, but as I was reading it for today, I was kind of going, man, I don't remember Azrael being in here, but I was kind of on Dick's side. So what do you kind of think with this first little bit? And I do like on page 5 where Dick kind of like turns really quick to Tim and say, Bruce is an infallible, Tim. He has been known to be wrong. He's the one that made a lunatic in charge, remember? And Tim's kind of like, whoa, chill here. So Dick has to kind of pull his, foot out of his mouth and be like, hey, I'm not trying to be the dark, brooding guy. And they kind of, go through the computer here. But what did you think of this first little section here? Yeah,
there's so much I like about it. I do love that they both disagree, that, Dick thinks it's Azrael and Tim does not, although Tim doesn't really give much reason why it wouldn't be him, even though he's seen him be some crazy psycho killer. The only thing he says is, I just don't see him picking up the vigilante gig again. But he never says why or not. And I'm like, this is the guy who tried to kill you in the back. See where you're standing right there, Tim? He tried to kill you, which also makes me wonder, and I never noticed this till right this second, why they only have one chair in the Bat Cave. You have the Batman and Robin.
Right.
Tim's always got to stand. It's like if you were a fan of the X-Files in the 90s, like Scully never had a desk in the thing or something, but get the poor guy another chair. But I do like seeing how they kind of work out a disagreement, because this is not how it would go if it was Bruce as Batman and Tim. And I like eventually they're just like, all right, well, you investigate your lead and I'll investigate my lead, and we can agree to disagree, which is not what Bruce Wayne Batman would do. And I kind of forgot these issues. Even last time I read them was like decades ago. For some reason, I think I kind of knew it wasn't Azrael, because I thought he doesn't come back till his own series. Yeah. But at the same time, I had no idea who it was and completely had forgotten about it. But I do like the bitterness that Dick kind of has, where he's kind of like, well, Bruce left him in charge. Like he's not happy about that. And then we get a little bit with the Gotham PD and introduction of a new character, which they did this a lot of, like, we'll introduce a new character and give him a couple panels, but his real story arc's not going to come for a while. And then we get the scene I told you about with the subway rocket, which I loved.
I think that's a really great dialogue that Dixon pulls off here with Dick and Tim, of them deciding what means of transportation they're going to take. Kind of Dick's leaning one way and Tim's leaning towards the rocket, and Dick kind of knows, okay, we're going to take the rocket. Tim's really wanting to take the rocket because he's never been riding in the rocket before. So you can kind of see just from what Nolan is doing with the pencils here that Tim looked really excited, like, sweet, we're going to take the rocket. So what do you think about the subway rocket and then Montoya and Bullock here?
Yeah, a couple things. I like how they added the fact that Harold updated the subway rocket, that it's tied into the transit system, and so that it'll keep them off tracks, that a train isn't within. He says if there's a train within 2 miles on our line, it'll keep it off it, which I like, because that's the thing I always wondered about the subway rocket, is like, wouldn't you hit a train eventually? So, and now in Detective Comics, they haven't used them in a while, but I think they were saying they have subway rockets, but they're from an old abandoned subway that was under the modern subway. Right. I think was that the case or something? Yep. So I thought that was cool. And then it's kind of classic Montoya and Bullock here. And having just read Lonely Place of Living parts 2 and 3, it was with Commissioner Montoya. It was kind of cool to see. And I love, the Batman and Robin's, just the silhouettes swinging from the building, even though it's probably incredibly implausible. It reminds me of the animated series.
Yes.
And I don't care if it's not too realistic. Whatever. It's cool. It's comics. It's fun. I think everything up to there, where they have the disagreement and get ready to go their own way, it moves really fast, but it's in a good way, not in a bad way.
Yeah. That's very fluid. I think that just, again, you're going to hear us say a lot on the podcast, just the writing that Chuck Dixon has. He has the ability to speed the story along when the story should be moving. Like when Batman and Robin are fighting, it should seem fast-paced. And them having their, I would say disagreement, but Tim would not have this. If Bruce said, we're going to go check this lead, that's exactly where Tim would have gone. But Tim points out to Dick that he didn't hire me as a sidekick. He hired me as a partner. So Bruce probably would say, Tim, you go take this lead, I'm going to take that. And even as Dick's kind of gliding away, he says, we'll divide and conquer. Dick is saying that there's strength in numbers. So this is kind of one of those things, too, that we've been saying in Prodigal, where Dick's really kind of relying on Tim in some ways of, you've been working with Batman more recently than I have. If this is how he would tackle the situation, then I'm going to go by doing that, rather than us being in two places or being at one place at the same time. We can split up and we can cover more ground in Gotham, because each of them are effective crime fighters. So I thought that was really pretty cool. And then you're talking about the chair on page 13. Tim doesn't even sit in the chair back in the Batcave when he's going back through it, like, oh, this is Batman's chair. I still have to stand behind chair. So
don't mess up my butt imprint. I've worked years to get that. One thing I really like going back, when I was reading it, there's the one line where Tim says, maybe it's time we each pursued our own tracks. And when I read it, I wasn't paying attention to where the word balloon was pointing, and I thought it was Batman at first. And then when I read the next line where Batman's like, what's that supposed to mean? I'm like, wait, you said that? And then I look, I'm like, oh, wait, that came out of Tim Drake. And this is, to me, classic, perfect Tim Drake. He's smart. He's stands up for himself. He gives his opinion, but he's not bratty. He's not whiny. He's not the cliched teenage annoying, Wesley Crusher on Star Trek kind of guy. And he's not disrespectful. He's not disobedient. He's just but he's not mousy and backing down either. So that's why I think I really like Tim Drake. And the times when I haven't liked the writer of Tim Drake, they stray from this. And this is the thing that Chuck Dixon, where I'm so glad he was doing Detective and the Robin series, he just got perfectly with Tim Drake. He just knew that line of, stand up for yourself, give your opinion, be firm, but not be the bratty teenager you just want to see thrown off the building by the Joker.
And Tim has the way of saying your piece, and then get out of the way. And not be the one pounding your fist, because again, testament to Dixon's writing, knowing that if he writes Tim in that way, nobody's going to listen to Robin in that manner, and you'll take the character more seriously. And it's evident by this story. So Tim is trying to track down all these people and find out who's taking owner for Tough Tony Brassey and Handy Andy, who he's going to be the next target, that whoever this thing is that is taking out the mob, that he needs to go there, and he's just working this out through the back computer and then talking to Harold. Even though Harold's a mute, not saying anything, it's still giving him somebody to play off of. Dick is going to the route of Jean-Paul and finding the salvation mission of where Jean-Paul is. And we find out in just a few pages that Jean-Paul is there and is in no condition whatsoever to be able to be doing the things that are going on.
Man, it's really jarring to see Jean-Paul, who was this fierce, creature of the night, just brutalizing people, to being this almost schizophrenic homeless person in a shelter, terrified of Batman. It's really jarring. And then the scene with Handy Andy, I wonder what the couple pages before Robin lists the names of these gangsters, and there's Nicky the Grip Teller, Big Danny Fresco, Little Danny Fresco, Chubby Moran, Lucky Silver, and then Tough Tony Brezzi, Jimmy Valentine, and then Handy Andy. I wonder if was Dixon just oh man, it's late, I gotta go to bed, I'm just gonna put these in, or was he oh, these are it, I'm gonna make a fortune, this is Handy Andy's gonna be on the animated series, and I'll be selling every kind of variant action figure to that Rob Myers guy and raking in the dough. But I love that Handy Andy's got the clapper. That's just hilarious.
Yes.
And I love how Robin, man, he just takes these guys down, because it looks like he's surrounded by them, and he just clap on, clap off, and he just takes them down. And then, you kind of see the claws come out, and at this point it's not Jean-Paul, because Dick has already found Jean-Paul in the mission. So you're kind of well, who is this with Robin? And then that's when something else happens with Dick Grayson, which I'll let you say. And then DC puts an ad right in the middle of it that kind of spoils everything. What are you doing, DC? But anyway, I'll let you take it away, Rob.
Well, and then just like our comment with the chair, we know the chair is not supposed to be occupied by anybody other than Batman. So Tim wouldn't be sitting in the chair, so surprise.
Do you guys mind if I start?
Penny, that's where I sit.
Sit next to me.
No, I sit there.
What's the difference?
What's the difference?
Here we go.
In the winter, that seat is close enough to the radiator to remain warm, and yet not so close as to cause perspiration. In the summer, it's directly in the path of a cross breeze created by opening windows there and there. It faces the television at an angle that is neither direct, thus discouraging conversation, nor so far wide as to create a parallax distortion. I could go on, but I think I've made my point.
It's Bruce Wayne. So Bruce is like very shocked that Dick, like, what, didn't you think I would return? And Dick's like, no, I'm not sure that you would. And it's spoiled by the page before The Dark Knight Returns every month, you know. So they're already putting for the ad for Troika coming up very shortly. And that is our cliffhanger for this particular podcast. So since the story concludes in Robin 13, we thought this would be a good way to kind of leave you hanging until the next episode.
And what's cool is Robin 13, the cover is a Tom Grummett cover, not the last one, because I know I'm looking 15 is still a Grummett cover, so is 16. But it has a split screen on Robin 13, and one half is Steel Jacket and Tim Drake going at it, and the other side is Dick Grayson and Bruce Wayne exchanging scowls with their blue hair and clenched fists at each other. And Bruce is like, I've been gone for 3 months. I need you to do my laundry, Dick. And he's like, I'm tired of doing laundry. No more, Bruce. No more.
Leave that, Master Dick. I'll attend to it.
I'm not used to being waited on now.
It's like I trained you in Kung Fu laundry.
Kung Fu laundry.
Thanks I get. Yeah.
I liked this issue of Detective 681, and it makes me go, yeah, this is why I liked the story. So what were your thoughts on this particular issue and the kind of, what's coming around the corner?
Yeah, I agree, and I'll give everybody a little, as you always say, the little peek behind the curtain. Originally, when we were going back and forth trying to find a time to do this, you had kind of sent out to everybody where we'll do Robin 12 and Batman 514, and then we agreed we were going to record at 7 o'clock tonight. And so at 6:20, I got done cutting the grass, which it's the middle of November. Everyone says, oh, you live in the South, no more shoveling snow, but I still got to cut my grass in the middle of November and start up again in February. But so I read Robin 12, and I got done at that at I don't know, like 6:20ish or 6:30, and then I picked up Batman 514 Part 9, and I'm like halfway through it, and I'm like, there's only like 2 pages of Tim Drake, and then I finished it, and I was like, this wasn't, it was what it was. So I sent you and then I looked through 10 and saw Part 10 that there's no Tim Drake, so I sent you a text at like, I don't know, what was that, 6:45 or something?
6:45, yeah.
5. And I had just started Detective Comics 681 that we just reviewed. I was on like page 2, and I said, hey, how about we just do, 8 and 11 and just kind of go quick. And you're like, well, I haven't read 11, and let me read it now. And I'm like, oh, I'm on page 2 right now. So we finished issue 11 literally like moments before we started recording, both of us. So that was kind of fun. And I probably am into this now, so I'll probably read 13 tonight and then read it again when we want to record.
Right.
But, part of when you started the podcast before me, but kind of when I kind of came on board and kind of doing all this and everything, I always was kind of looking forward to doing Prodigal because that's always been one of my favorite storylines. And I knew it was such a good Tim Drake storyline as well as just the Batman and a Dick Grayson. So it's been fun to get to do Prodigal again. And it is every bit as good as I remembered and maybe even a little bit more so now that I can look at it kind of with a middle-aged view and see, the relationship between them and see things with a little more maturity. That's just darn good storytelling by the people at DC.
Yeah, definitely. And this was one, too, that I think I liked it so much when it was going on. I know it sounds like we're giving our final wrap-ups here. We'll do that again.
Yes.
But I was pleasantly surprised of having not read this in almost 20 years that each issue, even the ones that I were kind of like, that was okay, it was still really good storytelling all the way through. So I'm excited to where to officially get Bruce Wayne back under the cowl again, and then, for this show, to be really jumping into some Robin stories that I know I've never heard on any other podcast, and some books that I only may have read once, so I'm really looking forward to that. We said at the beginning of the show here that, we're kind of juggling schedules around the holidays. So there may be one show in December. There may be two. I would like to try and do a Christmas show. So I'm just kind of putting some of that, stuff out there. The Lonely Place of Living will be after the new year, and Prodigal will at least get that in there. And there may be a Justice League show somewhere in there, or I may be appearing on other podcasts talking about the Justice League. I know the Batman Universe is going to be doing one. I think I'm going to guest over there. And the Bat Fans has asked Terrence and I both to be on their show doing one, but Terrence will be in Disney at the time that's going on. So some other things to kind of look forward to if the Drake kind of has some hiccups there. So I would say where people can find you, Terrence, but if they want to find you, you'll kind of be walking around Disney.
Yeah, look for the middle-aged man in Mickey ears with, the lots of food. No, but yeah, I mean, I'd say still the best place is over on Facebook at the Everybody Loves the Drake Facebook page. There's a lot of good comments there, and you can check out our YouTube page. Just type in Everybody Loves the Drake and it'll pop up. And that's about it. I enjoyed the heck out of this, Rob. I hope people listening enjoyed it as well. And I'm looking forward to, the holidays and all that stuff. So I probably won't. I should say that I might not talk to you before Thanksgiving. So if I do, that I know DC had that ad a few years ago. It was like the whole Batman family and like pilgrim gear thing. I imagine you there with them enjoying some turkey. So I hope you and your family have a great Thanksgiving.
Yep, and this will be the probably the last episode before Thanksgiving, so hopefully everybody out there has a good Thanksgiving. We will see you sometime after Thanksgiving and before Christmas. Don't know if it's going to be one show, two shows, or how that's going to go, so just kind of bear with us as we kind of go through the holidays. So on the behalf of Terrence, this has been Rob, and you've been listening to the Batman Universe, but more importantly, you're listening to Rob and Everyone Loves the Drake. We'll see you next time for the final installment of Prodigal. Thanks for listening to Rob and Everyone Loves the Drake podcast. This has been brought to you by the BatmanUniverse.net. Tim Drake, Robin, and all Batman-related characters are under copyright of DC Comics. This podcast is solely for entertainment purposes, so no infringement is intended by this show. This show is not a good revenue stream. Actually, there's not a stream at all. All music and sound clips are under copyright by their respected copyright holders. So there should be no need to send the Penguins lawyers after us for ill-gotten gains because there are none. You can get a hold of the show a few different ways. We are on Twitter at ELTD Podcast. You can also email in at robineltdpodcast@yahoo.com. Our Facebook page can be found at www.facebook.com/everyonelovesthedrake. And as always, you can message directly over at the BatmanUniverse.net. So email, tweet, or message us. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll read your comments or responses on the show. The show you're listening to can be found a few different ways through iTunes and Windows Media, also over at our host, TBU. Leave us a review on iTunes if you listen there. It'll help spread the word of the show. Make sure you head over to the BatmanUniverse.net, your home for all things Batman and Robin. Thanks for listening to the show and hearing why everyone loves the Drake. We'll see you in a few weeks. Take care.